Good afternoon, Israel Briefers, and welcome to another edition of the Israel Brief with me, Rolene Marks, where we take a gander through the top stories making the headlines in Israel. As always, we do this every Monday to Thursday, and we do it in connection with these guys, lay of the land. So, as always, I will take a question from the audience that's coming up a little later and get your thinking caps on for your recommendations or your nominations for Mensch and Moron of the Week. Today is day 774 since the 7th of October, and a reminder that we still have 3 hostages being held captive in the Gaza Strip. Their remains are held captive. We want them all home to lay them to a dignified rest soon. Israel today held a ceremony to farewell the remains of Joshua Molel, a 22-year-old Tanzanian agricultural student who had come to Israel to study. He had arrived just 19 days before the 7th of October when he was attacked on the kibbutz that he was working on and taken captive and murdered by Hamas terrorists. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs, along with the Tanzanian ambassador, members of the Hostages Forum and friends of Joshua, bid him an emotional farewell this morning at Ben Gurion Airport. He will be laid to rest back home in Tanzania. Joshua, may your memory be eternally blessed. So let's take a look at those top stories, and we begin with news that the UN Security Council has backed a resolution advancing the second phase of President Donald Trump's ceasefire plan. This is the 20-point plan. Now, this would see the establishment of an international security force or stabilization force that will fall under the remit of a board of peace. Now, what I find very interesting is the language of this resolution that did get some pushback from Israel because it included the line, it will work towards a path towards a Palestinian state through dialogue. Israel is not going to accept a Palestinian state on our doorstep, especially with Hamas still in power. Now, what is interesting to me is if you think about it, all the countries that have recognized a so-called Palestinian state, the United Kingdom, France, Canada, all backed this resolution, which effectively says that in order for there to be a Palestinian state, we have to go through this whole motion of getting rid of Hamas, of putting forward an international stabilization force made up of a large contingent of peacekeepers from countries like Indonesia and Azerbaijan and others, and then only can we move towards dialogue towards a Palestinian state. So effectively, it renders their recognition null and void. If you think about it, now China and Russia abstained, and as expected, Hamas released a statement condemning it, saying that it does not meet the demands and the rights of the Palestinians. What is also interesting is Mahmoud Abbas, the Palestinian Authority president, said he welcomes the acceptance of the resolution. Does he? There's what he says to the international community, and then there's what he says to his own people. And as the US ambassador to the UN, Mike Walt, said, he said, Hamas's response is exactly what we wanted, their condemnation, because this phase of the ceasefire means that we want an end to Hamas in the Gaza Strip. So that is the leading story of the day. And what else is very interesting, staying within kind of the remit of the UN, is that Israel, the state of Israel, has filed a submission or a request to disqualify the ICC, that's the International Criminal Court Chief Prosecutor Karim Khan, and also cancel the warrants of arrests that he has out for Prime Minister Netanyahu and former Defense Minister Yoav Gallant. Israel lodged a formal or file to the appeals chamber saying that they are acting out of serious concern that the chief prosecutor acted out of personal interests, and that the accusations from a subordinate of sexual harassment means that basically he's not qualified to preside over a case like this. This does not affect Israel's stance that because we are not signatories to the Rome Statute, we are not signatories to the establishing treaty of the ICC effectively has no jurisdiction over the state of Israel. Turning now to Israel and the IDF, Prime Minister Netanyahu, Defense Minister Israel Katz, and the Foreign Minister Gideon Sa'ar have all strongly condemned a group of extreme settlers who have committed acts of horrendous violence over the last couple of weeks, including setting fire to private property belonging to Palestinians. Now, I want to be clear, I'm very reticent to use the term settler because I don't want to paint everybody with a pejorative, because the image that people has of settlers is that they are extremists, they are dangerous. However, this is not the case. This group that we're talking about is a small group of extremists. Now, the IDF have said that they condemn it in the strongest terms, and that this risks not only destabilizing the area, but also draws or diverts attention away from counter-terrorism and defense of the country. The foreign minister said that this is not the state of Israel. They do not represent the state of Israel. And he called on the IDF, the Shin Bet, and the Israel police to act with the full force of the law. And Prime Minister Netanyahu has also condemned it in the strongest possible terms, saying that he is giving the go-ahead to all the security forces to act to the full extent of the law to punish these extremists and bring them to justice. And finally, the story that not just South Africans but the whole world is talking about, and that is the mysterious flight of Palestinian refugees that landed at OR Tambo Airport in Johannesburg last week. Now, what is very interesting, and these are the latest developments, is apparently this was organized by an NGO called Al Majd, and many of us are doing our digging into who exactly is this Al Majd, and we can't find any details. Some reports in the New York Times cite the Palestinians on board the flight as saying, you know, we just received these phone calls telling us they could do this, and we went through the crossing, we were told to leave our belongings behind, and our fear was like, who are these people? And then this particular witness who spoke to the New York Times said, we were scared that they had nothing to do with the IDF because they could just come into Rafah and open up fire on us. So I read that statement as they seem to trust, the Palestinian refugees seem to trust the IDF and the way that the IDF handled things, because they were scared that if this Al Majd group were not attached to the IDF, and the IDF are busy investigating, maybe there was some group that could attack these Palestinians looking to get out. But also very interesting was the U-turn from the South African government. Now, on Friday, President Ramaphosa said, we open our arms, we welcome them, it's the humane thing to do, and he used that horrible term, we have flushed them out, which to me, you only flush out, things in a toilet. You don't flush out people. So President Ramaphosa, it's a disgusting kind of turn of language, and I'm sure you who accused Israel of using the term Amalek in a bad way, I'm sure you could appreciate what it's like to have your words, however you must have meant them, taken out of context. Am I right? But now we have the Foreign Minister or the Minister of International Relations in South Africa, Ronald Lamola. He was the former Chief Justice who initiated the case against Israel at the ICJ, saying, no. We have to make sure that these Gazans are able to leave South Africa. To get them out of Gaza is ethnic cleansing. So let me just understand this, Minister Lamola. You don't want Gazans to stay in Gaza because it's very dangerous. You want them to have the freedom of movement. Israel supplies that freedom of movement. But now that you've got massive backlash in South Africa, because South Africans are asking, like, wait a minute, how many of these flights are coming in? And, what does this mean? Is this a Trojan horse? Who's coming in? What role do gift of the givers play? They don't seem so humanitarian after all. Now you're backtracking. Come on. I think that you slipped on a massive banana peel and were caught with your pants down. So those are your top stories, guys. Let's take a look at the audience question. It comes from Valerie Chambers, who asks, what do New Yorkers think of the new mayor-elect Mamdani? Now, this is a great question. Obviously, he won. He won by a very, very slim margin. And there are many New Yorkers, Valerie, who are very, very concerned about Mamdani being in Gracie Mansion. I know that Jewish New Yorkers are terrified because of his stance against Israel, because of the people that he fraternizes with, because of his threats to carry out arrests of Prime Minister Netanyahu and to divest from Israel. And you've got other New Yorkers who are very, very nervous about the fact that he is a socialist, that he wants to defund the police, that he's got all of these harebrained schemes and no experience to back it up. So it's going to be, I think, a very, very, very uneasy ride in New York for the next couple of years. Let's see what happens. And it will be interesting to see whether or not he eventually is either forced to resign, or if he delivers, or if the governor takes some kind of action against him. So let's watch the space. In the meantime, you can watch the space of our website at www.layoftheland.online. Our YouTube channel is right here at the Israel Brief. And if you like us, please, 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 please hit that red subscribe button. We're on Facebook at Lottel's site. We're on LinkedIn at Rolene Marks, on Instagram at Rolene_Marks, on Substack at Rolene Marks. And guys, you know I love you madly. I will see you again tomorrow for another edition of the Israel Brief. Bye for now.